Norm, a story of family. Just settle down and snuggle up, for I've a tale to share. So curl up on your couch or bed or big old fluffy chair. Now once there was a herd, or was it pack, or pride, or pod? Well, anyway, a group of tiny elephants who were, well, rather odd. Instead of gray and lumpy, these were pink and blue and grand, and not at all enormous, why, they could snuggle in your hand. They were soft and warm and fuzzy, not so wrinkled or so rough, and if they sat around your house, they wouldn't crush your stuff. For they don't roam a sun-drenched plain, nor walk the Serengeti. Their home is Wendell's discount store between the dust mops and spaghetti. Now living in this herd, or is it flock, or school, or swarm, was a pachyderm named Tilly and her good best buddy, Norm. Yes, Tilly and her sidekick Norm were never separated, and wherever one would wander to, the other always waited. And when the sun would disappear, they would stay up late at night, and one would tell a secret to the other one's delight. Of all the secrets that they shared, and all the dreams conspired, of every want and wish they made, this one they most desired. To have a family of their own, boys or girls, no matter, though Norm wished for the former, and Tilly, well, the latter. It was this wish above all else that set their hearts to dance. They knew that they could make love grow if given half a chance. And so it happened one fine day, or so the story goes, when all the elephants were there in neat and tidy rows. People came, some stopped to look, a crowd began to form. Soon life would never be the same for Tilly or for Norm. They summoned all their grace and charm, their best smiles they projected. They hoped and wished and hoped some more that they would be selected. The crowd moved in, and one by one they quickly made their choices. It was a blur of tails and trunks and children's happy voices. When this whirl of action ceased, they found to their dismay that they were sitting quite alone in their elephant display. When it seemed all hope was lost in that moment of rejection, they saw a friendly, freckled face that smiled in their direction. His mom and dad knelt down to speak some words meant just for him. Then he smiled and nodded yes. He pointed right at them. And as they both were lifted up in two exciting tugs, they landed safe in waiting arms, with giggles and with hugs. Arriving at a modest house and carried through the door, these two friends were happy as they'd never been before. What's first, thought Norm, excited as an elephant could be. Play outside, or take a bath, or maybe watch TV. I'll bet that we'll go camping, Tilly said in happy tones, or ride a bike, or build a fort, or go for ice cream cones. And as they tried to think of all the fun that they were able, they found themselves set down upon the family's kitchen table. And as the family gathered round, they passed a photograph and read aloud some words that made them hug and smile and laugh. It was then the little freckled boy reached out and picked up Tilly. He hugged her oh so tight, he nearly squeezed her silly. Tilly loved the squeezing and was thrilled right to her socks. So imagine her amazement when she was dropped into a box. There must be some mistake, she thought. They surely couldn't mean it, as she stumbled and she staggered there among the packing peanuts. That's when the bumps and thumps began, the racing and the reeling. The box was moved this way and that, causing quite a dizzy feeling. Then Tilly heard a motor roar and footsteps on a stair. Suddenly she had the sense of flying through the air. And when it seemed there'd be no end to this whirling, twirling riot, the box came to a sudden stop, and things were strangely quiet. There in the darkness, Tilly sat, afraid to move or speak. She thought she heard some voices, and her box began to creak. She heard the sound of tearing tape. The box was filled with light. She peeked up and saw a face that shone with sheer delight. She was the cutest little girl, all smiles and raven hair. And when she lifted Tilly up, her laughter filled the air. The girl said, "I'm Shirlandy. On my next birthday, I'll be 9. Then she hugged her and she whispered, "I just can't believe you're mine." She told somebody thank you. Tilly wasn't sure quite who, and then off they went together under a sunny sky of blue. The road was dry and dusty, all the trees were small and spare, and donkeys, goats, and chickens seemed to scurry everywhere. And when they'd walked along a while, they crossed a narrow creek. Then Shirlandy stopped and pointed and held Tilly to her cheek. Then Tilly heard her speak the words that danced right through her head. She closed her eyes and slowly smiled. "We're home," Shirlandy said. Then up a little pathway past a modest wall of stone, in the arms that held her tightly, Tilly entered her new home. And as her eyes adjusted to the room's diminished light, she found herself presented with a quite surprising sight. The house was made of mud and sticks with 2 windows and a door, and the fireplace was sitting in the middle of the floor. She saw no beds, but woven mats were rolled up by the wall, an iron pot, some wooden stools, and that was really all. But Shirlandy chattered on and showed off her house with pride. It was then out of the sunlight that 2 people stepped inside. A little boy of 2 or 3 who was Shirlandy's brother, and a woman smiling down at them who had to be her mother. When Shirlandy held up Tilly, the scene made Tilly blush, for they hugged her and they held her and made quite a little fuss. And later on, when bedtime came, the fire was low and warm, and Tilly snuggled down to sleep, safe in Shirlandy's arms. Thereafter, days were full and fun, with school and chores and play. No elephant was ever loved so much day after day. Yet something tugged inside her, like a constant, distant storm. And Tilly knew the reason was she missed her best friend Norm. Then one day came a commotion as loud as a marching band. Shirlandy burst into the house with a letter in her hand. She sat down with her mother and together read the lines. They both seemed to be laughing while they cried at the same time. Then something slipped out of her hand. It sailed this way and that, finally landing on the table right beside where Tilly sat. She saw it was a photograph, and to her shock and joy, there was Norm, all cuddled in the arms of the freckled-faced boy. Then she looked up at Shirlandy, whose tears left happy traces. Her smile and the little boy's looked the same upon their faces. And Tilly began to understand that this was all intended, that the love that she and Norm had known was somehow now extended. 2 families had become like one in this single loving instance. With Tilly here and Norm back there, they helped to close the distance. Well, soon a letter had been penned, the most special of replies, for this one had a secret, little special, neat surprise. For if you look very closely at the bottom of the form, you'll see in tiny writing, it says, "P.S. I love you, Norm."